The latest Overwatch patch, and the last one before the start of the Overwatch League, is now available for testing on the PTR, and is full of changes that could dramatically alter the game. So let's quickly run down what's new, and then take a look at what this all means. The biggest change in this patch is a blanket nerf to armour. Previously, armour would reduce incoming damage by up to 5 points. That has now been reduced to a maximum of 3. This is a nerf to many tanks, and Brigitte in particular. A second nerf to Brigitte in this patch is that Rally now has a maximum duration of 30 seconds before the armour will vanish. D.Va was also nerfed. Her defense matrix cooldown was increased from 1 second to 2, and finally Reaper's passive lifesteal ability was buffed to now heal him for 50% of any damage dealt, up from the previous 30%. First, let's talk about the armour nerf and what it really means. So the way that armour previously worked was that it would reduce incoming damage by 5, or if the damage dealt was less than 10, it would just reduce it by half. So, a direct hit from Pharah would deal 115 damage rather than 120, not a big difference. But for any heroes who deal damage in lots of small hits, like Tracer for example, it's a much bigger problem, as her standard 6 damage per bullet would be reduced by half. So, with armour now being nerfed to reduce the damage by up to 3 rather than 5, what really changes? Well, for heroes who deal in big hits like Pharah and Hanzo, not a lot, they simply deal 2 extra damage. And for Tracer, her base damage will be staying much the same, although her headshot damage will be increased from 7 to 9. Those that will benefit from this the most are heroes that will deal lots of small damage hits, like Soldier 76. His base damage is 19 per round. So with the old armour, this will be reduced to 14, but now it will be 16, a 15% increase. The damage output from heroes like Sombra and Bastion will also benefit from this in the same way. The heroes this change hurts the most are Reinhardt, Orisa, D.Va and Hammond, who all have armour as part of their health pools, and of course Brigitte, as it's a major part of her kit. However, it's important to keep in mind that only certain heroes will be dealing noticeably more damage against them. In many situations, the armour nerf won't be noticeable. Overall, this patch is clearly intended to bring an end to the GOATS composition, also known as triple tank, triple support. By nerfing armour, heroes that are central to the strategy like D.Va, Reinhardt and Brigitte all get weaker, and then the additional nerfs to D.Va's defense matrix and Brigitte's rally add to this. Combine this with a Reaper buff that makes him more effective against tanks, and there is definitely the potential for this patch to bring an end to the GOATS meta, and possibly see the return of more traditional compositions with a wider range of heroes, something Blizzard will really want for the start of the Overwatch League next month. However, there are drawbacks to this plan. Unless you're in the upper ranks of competitive play, then the GOATS composition probably hasn't been a thing that's affected you, and as such, these changes could cause problems. At lower ranks, Reaper is already very strong, and buffing him could make things worse. Tanks are also less popular in lower ranks, making nerfing them seem quite bizarre. Unfortunately, this is one of those times where Blizzard is forced to decide who to balance the game for, and with the Overwatch League fast approaching, it's clear they wanted to make a move to add more variety to the meta within the highest ranks of play. Looking specifically at Reaper, his new buff is actually the latest in a series of improvements to him over the past year. The spread of his shotguns was made less random, Wraith form was made faster and possible to cancel, plus his ultimate now reloads his guns. However, unfortunately for Reaper, even if this buff makes him strong enough to counter GOATS, he probably still won't see that much play, as if GOATS goes away, players will probably gravitate back towards more normal compositions, where Reaper is generally unable to compete because of his lack of range. But you never know, if this buff is big enough, he could make a comeback. The D.Va Nerf is very interesting. She's been one of the most popular heroes for nearly 2 years at almost all levels of play, but this is a substantial hit to the most powerful part of her kit. By nerfing the cooldown on defense matrix, there is a much greater opportunity to avoid eating ultimates, and a lot more pressure on D.Va players not to use their defense matrix when they know a Zarya, for example, has their Graviton Surge available. Applying pressure to D.Va to force out the defense matrix will become a very effective tactic and a lot easier to pull off now. Finally, we have the latest nerf to Brigitte. It's getting insane how much she's been nerfed since release. Shield Bash has been nerfed half a dozen times, her shield itself was nerfed, Rally was previously nerfed and now it's been hit again. Almost every patch since her release has included a nerf to her kit, but it remains to be seen if this will be the last one or not. If this patch brings an end to the GOATS meta, we will probably see less of Brigitte, but it's likely she will still find a place as a counter to heroes like Tracer. What do you think of these new changes? Are you happy to see Blizzard trying to break the GOAT's meta, or has it barely affected you? Let me know in the comments below. As always, this is James for Cass, saying thanks for watching, and enjoy the game.